Welcome to the edition of You've Been Through Too Much to Be Average. It's going to be a great one. I'm super excited. I'm so full of life elevating mind information that I want to share with you. It's a great time. I'm feeling awesome. This is a great teachable moment, or teachable truth, as I like to call them, in history that we're going through with this corona scare or this corona pandemic. And so I want to welcome you to Thursday Night Live's edition of You've Been Through Too Much to Be Average. And I'm going to jump right in. I said in a couple of the posts that you hear tonight that America doesn't vote for black presidents. It doesn't vote for white presidents. It votes for green presidents. What that means, the president who is actually the most, the closest to their purse strings, giving them the most money, or that has their financial interest in heart, is usually how it goes. And I was actually in a class, in a study, in a seminar, in a conference once, and we had to go through a study and saw that, all the presidents who were reelected, it was because there were different things going on in that particular, related to whether it was tax cuts, whether there was stimulus packages, whatever. And so that's a good way to look at things. And really, I want you to make sure that you understand that face value is rated. So this is a time of great. The first lesson, the easiest lesson that I can give you. Hey, Latoya, Richard, hey, Alvita. The quickest lesson I can give you about the corona pandemic is, well, this is a lesson before a lesson, but this is a time of gratitude, of just being thankful. You're seeing the best come out in people. I was just telling my mom and my aunt earlier that there's some crazy, funny things on Facebook that people have me, that is hilarious. And I'm like, are people coming up with these memes and these, sayings and these scenarios that, teachers are about to be the best paid and the most appreciated professions ever once these kids get back to school. Now see what it's like to have the kids at home all day long and that kind of thing. Also, just that's I'm thanking God for the humor, that people find a way to laugh when they might feel like crying because they're afraid or they're scared, and something that they put out there could actually warm somebody's heart. So I'm actually to what a lot of people use. What sometimes I see, I'm actually happy and I'm elated to see some of the stuff that people are putting up, because some of it is absolutely hilarious, and people really, their best selves is coming out. And so being grateful, there are provisions being made for people. We live in a country, and whether we complain. When I used to teach economics to high school students, I would tell them all the time. There was one lesson I would open up with, and I would ask them a question to get them thinking. And of course, that's always a good way to get them going. How do you feel about the government? Hi, Larry. How do you feel about the government? Do you like it? Do you hate it, or whatever? And a lot of times they would start, I don't like it. I don't like taxes. I don't like whatever. And then when I start naming some of the things that our tax system pays for, some of the benefits that they have, then of course they were like, well, I'm not so against the government. I'm not so against this. I'm not even against police protection. And I taught in a very high poverty district, high crime and that kind of thing. But that goes to show, when you connect and show them a better way, a lot of times they will accept it and they will go along that path. But the first lesson, like I said, the churches are making provisions for people. I know my church teamed up with the food bank. The government is making provisions for people. School systems, the local school system where I'm from, actually getting on their school bus, passing out food at bus stops, because they realize that their kids, a lot of the kids come to school and that's the only food that they get, those 2 meals at school, or that's the only they get to rest. That's the only time that they feel safe. And so I think this is a time of great gratitude, just to say that we live in a country where, even facing a crisis, that things are in place for us. And I'll get to that in a little bit later, that how it may be strategic that we live in a country that people, or not that we live in a country that provisions can be made, but that may be something that people capitalize on. But I think it's a great time of gratitude. Before I get into any deeper lessons, this is a time of gratitude. I talk a lot in a lot of my stuff, my books, my seminars, my live broadcasts, about how you can immediately change your state, okay? And it's called a state change. When you're feeling bad, you're in a bad place or a bad state, gratitude is one of those things that can immediately change your state. I'm sitting in a room right now, and I'm looking up on a cabinet, and I see this little plaque that says grateful. Anytime you feel yourself down, anytime you feel like you're failing, just stopping, actually be genuinely grateful. Show some gratitude about something in your life, whether it's the fact that you do have a job, even though you're complaining about it, that you're healthy, your family is healthy, that you do have friends, that you do have a relationship that you're working through, or that you've learned from and you can walk away from. But just stopping and being grateful times. This gratefulness comes into comparison that there are a lot of other people, hey, keep on doing worse than you. So there are countries where a pandemic such as this would have wiped out a lot of people by now because of, the lack of clean water, the lack of proper housing, the lack of food or systems in place. Like I said, hats off, add a boy, add a girl to the Doherty County school system. I don't know if other school systems are doing this, but add a boy, add a girl to those people who are making provisions. Add a boy to my church, Victory of Albany, and all the other churches. There are many other churches I know that are teaming up with the food bank Feeding the Valley to make sure that kids who are at home as well as people who are without have. So this is a time of gratitude. That's the first easiest lessons I can teach for you. Even in this horrible time, you can still thank God that we live in one of the best country in America. In some smaller countries, in some countries where there are different governmental systems, a lot of people would have been wiped out by now. I've heard of that old European thing, let them eat cake. If there's no bread, there's the aristocrats saying let them eat cake, right? Like we don't care. So there a little bit about how this actually could be our system playing and capitalizing on this. But nevertheless, I want to say this is a time that people are making provisions. People are making great humor of the situation. Hey, Ben, great humor of the situation. I'm seeing some hilarious stuff on Facebook that's really warming my heart, and I know it's taking other people's minds off of it. So I'm really, hey, Sister James, that I'm really grateful during this time. And so the first lesson you can learn is just to learn a lesson of gratitude, that you live in the best country in the world, and this thing is not going to take us out, but the best comes out in people. And that's just a little nugget that I had written up my script or typed up my notes and everything, compiled them through the week, and something the Holy Spirit just brought something to me about maybe 20-30 minutes ago as I was preparing for tonight's broadcast. And I'm wondering, is God, in the Bible says God is love, and in his purest form, if you want to define God, it's love, right? Hey, Cynthia, atta girl. And so if God is love, is the coronavirus just another flood, tornado, hurricane, and God saying, look, God is saying, I'm love and I will win. You guys get together for tornadoes and storms and floods, and the best comes out of people, and people band together. You have races, you have people from different classes, you have people within the same race who think, but everybody puts all that aside and they get together when this kind of stuff happens. So if you guys won't stay together, then maybe I need to keep allowing this stuff to happen. I don't know, because I'm going to give you another thing. And that's one of the lessons I'm telling you about tonight. Not taking things for face value. Face value is overrated. Just taking what people give you and accepting it. I was speaking to a few hundred people last week, young people, and I was telling them, listen, that cliche, it is what it is. Because it's not. It's what you make it. It's what you look into it. Give you things, because I've done a broadcast on this before. People think for you, and that's why they get your money, your time, and your energy, because we do not think. We allow other people to give us stuff, and we take it for face value. But face value is overrated. So I don't know if the God or love saying, hey, listen, y'all love each other, and you show love, you show the true essence of love when all these disasters and stuff come, you band together. So maybe stuff needs to start coming. I was talking to a friend, and she's on here tonight, atta girl, Alvita Swain, and I was talking to her, and she was just talking about, she was riding through her neighborhood, and people were walking, couples were walking together, people were out playing with their kids. And so she said, I feel like this is God slowing the world down so that we can spend time. Kids are at home with their parents. Okay, so parents now can appreciate the education system, but they also have time they never have made without something like this. But the system has forced it, and it could be God, it could be love saying, hey, I will win by any means necessary. You guys, you overlook me, you get together and you band together when things are bad. But as soon as things go back to normal, you go off into your silos, you go off into your classes and your attitudes and all this kind of stuff, and then we're right back to square one. But this could be God saying, hey, I'm love, I will win. But that's just a couple different notices. But the first true lesson, I just gave you some lessons within the lesson, some little nuggets. But the first true lesson that I have tonight is, it's true. The first I have is, notice that on my post tonight, I sent out the little poster that talks about the Corona classroom, things you can learn from the Corona. Hey, Robert. Things you can learn from Corona. And I didn't put coronavirus, because if you know me, you guys know I talk a lot about language. I wear this shirt, and I'm not selling them yet, but somebody had to have one because of the language and what it means to her. And I haven't seen her on here tonight, but a shout out to Keandre Stevens, atta girl, for making things happen. But atta through anything by becoming allergic to the average. That's atta boy, atta girl, you're doing it right. So a lot of you all know that I talk a lot about the power of language and how words, we train our subconscious for what we have in life based on the things that we speak. Some people speak wealth and prosperity. Other people speak lack and what they see, what they want. And so notice in none of my posts did I put the Corona classroom, because Corona is a beer and it means several other things. I think it's Spanish. I have not looked it up. I meant to look it up, but somebody, you can look it up, put it in the comments. I appreciate it. But Corona, before you knew it as a virus, you knew it as a beer, right? You knew that commercial that says every time somebody has money, a Corona gets his line, right? Like an angel gets his wings. And so I never put the coronavirus because I'm not giving energy to it. I don't, like I told you, I don't wear paraphernalia that people give me for certain walks and certain fundraisers with the actual C word on it. I say this is breast health month, or we're walking for breast health, or women's survival. You don't have to give power to the word. And so remember that your words have power. They frame your world. Okay, words become thoughts, become feelings, actions, results. All right. You've heard a T-fart before. Your thoughts become feelings, your feelings become actions, your actions become results. And guess what? Your thoughts start out with words. And so a lot of times we give too much energy, and you guys have said this, say this again and again. Hi, Denevius, attaboy. You've heard me say it again and again that I really hope we reform the way we pray. Instead of calling out all the negative stuff in the prayer, just say the opposite of it. And you don't have to give life to it. But I don't know about you. Every time somebody says my name, I get energy. I'm going to turn around and look. You have my attention. So every time you call out ills in society, okay, or you wear a t-shirt and say, I'll never be this and this kind of stuff, you're still wearing that negative word. You're putting that energy in the universe. You've heard me say, I wrote it in my book, Better Than Average. And man, I'm supposed to have a copy right here. Better Than Average. There's a chapter in there about affirmations. One thing people do not, they cannot be negative. So instead of saying I never lose, that's not an affirmation, because you're putting the word lose in your subconscious mind, even though you have the word never in front of it. If I say don't think of a red Ferrari right now, don't think of a red Ferrari, exit out, you still just thought of a red Ferrari. So instead of saying I never lose, you would say always win, right? So affirmations cannot be negative. A lot of people don't know that. Average people don't know that, but you're allergic to the average. So attaboy, attagirl for being on here learning things that average people don't learn, because you've been through too much to be average. You might as well use it to make sure you never go back to average again, and you bring other people with you. I think Alvita may have looked up something. It says see more. I'm scared to watch it or touch it, because I just hit something and it went. Somebody sent me a message. I hit it and we went off. So I don't know exactly what she's saying. It says see more anatomy, astronomy. Oh, I'm not sure about astronomy, but hey David. But never the language. Watch the words that you never saw me put corona. Any of my stuff, I put the Corona classroom. So we're learning from. You know what Corona is. You don't have to put the word virus. I refuse to put virus out there. I'm saying it's gone, it's there, and it's gone. On nothing that I posted that's permanent, it's not going to be there, because there's power in words. Speak about the affirm what you want and not what you don't want. Talk about when you pray, solution, the problem solver and not the problem. So I talk about it all the time. You have pastors and preachers standing up, spit flying, they're hollering and screaming, we rebuke this and this, this and this. But as every time you say my name, if you say Victoria, I'm listening. Every time you say my name, Victoria means victorious spirit. You're declaring that in the universe. So every time you say, I speak against cancer, I speak against coronavirus, you're putting that in the universe, and that spirit is saying, yes, keep saying my name. But I'm not going to go into that. So that's the first small lesson you can learn, that I did not put coronavirus on any of the posts, not the title of this live broadcast or any of the invitations I sent about tonight's post, tonight's broadcast. I just put Corona, the Corona classroom. So we're on lesson 2 that you can learn from the Corona pandemic, or what's going on. And so I talked about this earlier. Face value is overrated. What's face value? When you look at things and you think that whatever you see is what you get, you don't look deeper. Face value, you just look at the face of things. Excuse me. So face value is overrated. And what I mean by this is getting a little deep, and this might upset some people. I'm not promoting any types of politics, any types of parties, or going against any type of presidents. But I'm saying just listen, and I think you should think deeper and cause your mind to actually not just receive things, but actually develop thoughts. Most people don't think, and that's why most people are average, and other people capitalize on their time. There are marketers out there who are thinking for you. There are systems out there that are thinking for you. And if you allow them to do it because you take things for face value, then you're part of the problem. So that's why you're on here. Attaboy, being on here. You're allergic to the average, and you're going to achieve anything. Okay, so Gotta show off my shirt, guys. Add a girl, okay? And add a boy to the guys out there. You don't just take things for face value. What I mean by face value, hey Katanga, one of my old students. So one of the things I want you to talk when I say face value is overrated. Don't just take what people give you. Don't just think that whatever you hear on the news. Do some research. Go in your prayer and reflection time. You guys know I talk about tape sessions all the time. Think and pray every day. Put yourself in a tape session so that God can reveal some things to you. You can give yourself some mental clarity and space to quiet out everything and get some solutions, get some answers, get some insight that you may be able to share with the world. And so face value is overrated. Don't just take things. I hate that cliche. It is what it is. Hi, Tanel. Look at things a little deeper. Ask God to give you some insight. You do some thinking and reflection on your own. What I mean by this is this. I said it. And it was on the little poster to bring you here tonight that talked about the Corona classroom. One thing you can learn or know is that Americans do not vote, and not just Americans, in other countries as well. People don't vote for black and white. They vote for green presidents, whoever affects the money, okay? Even if they say the craziest stuff, do the craziest stuff, if it affects their pocketbook, most times people are going, in a positive way, people will vote for you. And really, real politicians, not public servants, but politicians who know how to play the game, they capitalize on that. And this could be that. I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it is. I'm telling you to think for yourself, pray for yourself, meditate, study, and look for yourself. So for green presidents, studies show anytime people have served second terms or people have got voted in office, if their platform was based on giving more money to people, they actually, whether it's big business like Republicans, whether it's the average everyday people, such as what Democrats claim to do, Republicans claim to do the big business, bolstering the economy through business, whatever it is. If you can get to the bulk of the people and convince them that you can give green, people vote for green presidents. They don't vote for black and white, okay? There are black people that have said that, they hate Trump and this kind of stuff, but now the stimulus stuff is coming out. They're saying, okay, I'll vote for him. And you know why? I'm going to teach you a term tonight. Hey, Sharia, I'm going to teach you a term tonight. It's called immediacy bias. Immediacy comes from the word immediate. Immediacy bias. This is why you're on here. This is why I love doing what I do. You're going to know what immediacy bias is now. Immediacy bias is talking about, it comes from the word immediate. And bias just means you're kind of prejudiced, or you have a certain opinion of people. And there's a mosquito in here. I'm sorry, guys. That's funny, but I don't want the mosquito to get me. I saw that. But nevertheless, back to regularly scheduled programming. Immediate bias means this immediate. I don't care what you've done to somebody in the past, how bad you were to them. Before they get ready to make a decision that affects you, if you want them to vote for you, if you want them to say yes to something, you do something very nice for them, and immediately before this, they have to make this decision, okay? You take advantage of immediacy bias, okay? When you know that people are getting ready to have to do a survey, vote for you, a lot of times people give them nice meals, send things their way. You see it all the time when politicians come to you. You haven't seen them in 10 years, but now it's election time. They want to have a barbecue in your neighborhood. They want to school your organization. This immediacy bias. They know that people forget everything you have done or have not done for them in the past however many years. If you give them something immediate, because immediacy bias is real, guys. It happens with kids, it happens with adults. You see politicians in your church that you have not seen in years right before. Immediacy bias is this. This is how people play on your emotions. We have not done anything for you. As a matter of fact, we could have been doing ill against you all the way up until this time. But I'm going to give you some free money, some free food. And food, especially in poverty, food is a big motivator. Because you see it all the time when kids are running for offices, or people in real life grown politicians do it as well. But you see it in high schools and middle schools, and kids come and give out candy and give out whatever is the most immediate thing that happened to you prior to the vote or the decisions you have to make. Most of the time, people, and it's a sad thing, but it's true. I've seen it happen again and again. So immediacy bias, okay, in the fact that people vote for green presidents. I'm not going to try to tell you something is this or that. I'm going to give you the facts and let you put it together. Let you get your mind thinking, because The mind is a muscle just like the other muscles in the body. If you don't use it, you'll lose it. So start thinking about things. Pray, study, ask God to reveal some things to you. Because like I said, you may have the answer for somebody in your family, somebody in your circle, somebody who you manage or whatever. So Americans and people vote for green presidents. Not black, not white, but people who can fatten their pocket, right? And then there's immediacy bias. Immediacy bias, right? People tend to remember what just happened versus what happened 10 years ago, 5 years ago, treating them like dirt. But right before it's time for them to make a decision, you're very nice to them, you're sweet to them, you give them things. Yes, Avita, it's strategic genius, right? And so put those two things together, and then let me tell you about point C under face value is overrated. Listen, crises or crisis, but the plural of crisis is crises. Crises manufactured and manipulated. Say amen or raise your hand or put a like or a share or something if you understand and you believe it. Crisis can be manufactured or manipulated. Okay, you can create. Hey, Miss Cornelia, crisis can be manipulated or manufactured. Agree with me? Put a like, hit the heart, hit the love button, whatever, and please like and share this video because this is some real stuff. It's going to elevate somebody's life. It's going somebody's mind and elevate somebody's life. So please like this video, share it, love this video and share this video. I appreciate those who are doing it now. Love the video, share the video. But if you agree with what I'm saying, if you know what I'm saying, before I even break it down, I want you to hit the love button right now. Okay, crises can be manufactured and or manipulated. Okay, so this is what I mean when I say don't take everything for face value. Remember the first 2 points. People vote for green presidents, not black or white. They vote for who's bringing the money. 2, okay, the second thing is immediacy bias. People do things just before it's the decision time, just before an election, just before it's time to vote, just before it's time to pass a bill or put together a budget or whatever. They give you things. They give you gifts. They're nicer to you than they've ever been. They show up at your church. They show up at your house. They give you gifts, okay, because they know that you forget everything in the past as long as you give them something immediately before it's time to make a decision. Guys, don't let yourself be average. Don't get taken by this. Vote for somebody. Vote for them because you really want to do it, not because a strategic game has been played on your intellect. Because it happens. Everybody's been a victim. I want you to know that it's real and you've been through too much to be average. So when I say part C, that crises can be manufactured and manipulated, this is what I'm saying. A few years ago, it's probably been maybe like 5 or 6 now, I took my mom and my aunt to, my husband and I took them to, had kids or anything, to New Orleans for, I think it was my mom's birthday. So it's the first time any of us had ever been in New Orleans, right? And so while we're there, we're on this tour or whatever, and the guy is telling my mom, he's actually sitting with my mom and aunt, and then we have another agent or tour guide or whatever. So he's saying, listen, after we got back together later on, my mom said, hey, Andrea, she said, listen, the guy told me, he said that Hurricane Katrina was really bad around here, and you know, he had never seen anything like it or whatever, but he said that for the most part, because it was so much crime and poverty and just destitute, despair in so many places in New Orleans, high crime city. You know, it was the murder capital of the world for a long time. I don't know if it is now. I know it's very close with Chicago on most occasions. But he said it was so bad there that the government agents, actually the people in the city, could control where the water went when the rivers and stuff start to swell and it overflows. Because of the water system, they can control the water to a certain extent. Somebody had already told me that when the flood of 94 hit Albany. As I got older, I was pretty young then, but you know, I've always kind of been into thinking. But somebody said pretty much the water systems you can control. You can open up certain dams and all kinds of things to to a certain extent control where the water goes. That's why a lot of people ticked off saying that, you know, it went into South Albany, East Albany, and others were saying, you know, hey, that's a good thing because it was a rebirth to get homes built and rebuilt that they had never seen before. You know, neighborhoods were wiped out and then rebuilt. But the same thing, the guy told my mom and my aunt in New Orleans that the government, the people in the city directed that water to wipe out certain places in New Orleans so that they could start fresh because they were tired of all the crime and poverty. Okay, and so no, you can't affect the fact that it rains forever and that rivers swell and things flood, but to a certain learn from certain government officials that to a certain extent every city in America can control for the most part the degree to which a city floods, right? And you probably have seen some of that stuff. You probably seen them pumping water. You probably seen them putting up certain things. I'm not talking about sandbags. I'm talking about the everyday can be controlled. And so I know that crises can be manipulated. They can be manufactured. You can create a crisis. If you've ever watched things like the Tuskegee, I think that was the experiment. Not the airmen, the Tuskegee experiment, Miss Everett's boys. That's it. It was about the Tuskegee experiment where they injected these guys to test them as pretty much lab rats. People go over to other nations or go into labs, and it's been said, there's books about it, do some research where you introduce certain diseases and certain cultures, civilizations, nations to either wipe out people or to test certain things. So the world we live in, you've heard it before that that is written that every generation will become wiser, but have more knowledge, can do crazy things, but weaker because we use it to do crazy things, right? We can find a way to do some of the most amazing things. Technology is a beast. I'm amazed by it every day. All right, but people find ways to do the most evil things with it. So that's part of that. You probably have heard the older people say, I used to hear when I was younger, they said every generation will become wiser but weaker. So what I'm saying is, I just gave you 3 things. I'm not going to give you any kind of implications. I want you to put it together and see what you think I am trying or not trying to say. Okay, Americans vote for green presidents. They vote not for black, not for white. They vote for the person who's going to affect their pocket, or who they believe is going to affect their pocket in the most positive extent. Secondly, there's a thing called immediacy bias. I've done nothing for you for 3 years. Okay, if I've treated you bad for 3 years, on the 4th year, right before you get ready to vote, or right before I get ready to ask you to marry me, right before you get ready to do your budget and I need some money out of it, I'm going to do nice things to you, and then you have an immediacy bias. A lot of times, I've seen this happen. I've seen it happen before. People done great all the year long, okay, and they're still being their self. Somebody who's been doing average or below average all year, and they step up and stand out and do something above average right before it's time, and then they override or overrule the person who's been doing it all year long because of immediacy bias. Okay, so you put it together. I'm not saying certain things have been released. I will say this. Okay, I will say, Donald Trump. Okay, I respect him as a businessman. I talked about his book, Think Big, on here a lot. Some maybe about. People gave me flack, but then some people were like, yes, because I believe you can learn something from every person you come. As Abraham Lincoln said, I don't afford myself I don't allow myself to interact with anybody without learning something. You can learn what to do or what not to do. If you're liking this, if you're loving this, love it and share it. Hit the love button and share it. But I respect see certain things of Donald Trump as a business person. As a man, not so. Public servant, not necessarily so. But I will tell you this, and you should know this from the first election. Some people have a winner's mindset. Some people have a loser's mindset. I was just telling a few hundred people that I spoke with last week about this. No in between. Some people will find a way to win. I'm not going to condone cheating. I'm not going to condone manufacturing crisis so that you can roll, or you can put this stuff because year. I'm not even saying that that's true. I want you to put all the variables together that I gave you. And if you just got on here, go back and look at the variables and you see anything. I want you to come up with your own synopsis of it. But I'm saying this. Some people find a way to win. Some people find a way to lose. What do you mean, Victoria? Some people have gotten used to and they have accepted it. They make excuses for it. Well, my mom and my dad didn't do this. Well, I'm too old. Well, gonna let me get ahead in this town. Well, people are prejudiced. Well, people that are my own skin color, my own whatever, that don't want to see me do it. Some people get and they will defend it so much, the energy that they use defending it, they could have been actually winning. So some people find a way to lose. They find a way to that it's okay that they don't have enough, that they're not living the life that they want to live, that they don't have more than enough to help. And then there are people who find a way to win. And like I said, I think Trump is one of those people, good, bad, or ugly. He showed it in the first election. He will find a way to win. People are, pretty much all signs point to, yes, he had this man, did this and this with the Russians or intelligence or whatever, and found a way to. A lot of people don't even see how it's statistically possible, but he found a way to win. Okay, same. That's the case now, but I'm just telling you, you put 1, 2, and 3 together. I talked to you about green presidents, immediacy bias, and that crises can be manufactured or manipulated. Hey, Johnny. Hey, Sister Joanne. And so you put it together and decide, is this a strategic plan? I don't know. It could be one of the first things I said when I got on here tonight. It could be love, which is God saying, listen, I will win. I'll find a way for y'all to come. If it has to be a flood or a hurricane or tornadoes or a plague or a pandemic or whatever, and that's the only way that y'all are going to get together, I'm going to show you that I will win, that I have the last say. If every time something like this happens, the best comes out in people work together, people's creative genius comes out, and people just love and look past their differences. Every time that happens, every time something horrible happens, that's what goes on, and then you go back. Maybe I should just keep allowing things to happen. God says, I am love, and love is the most important thing. So I'm going to show you that I'm going to win. It could be that, or it could be the 3 things that I just talked about, that don't take things for face value. Don't just look at things and think that old cliche, it is what it is. I hate that cliche. Look deeper. It's not what it is. It's what you make it. It's what you actually find. What you get from your own prayer, your own study, your own meditation, your own communion with God. Because I don't know about you, the book that I read, my book, the favorite book of all time, because it's the best-selling book in the world consistently. Okay, it says that God knows He has His way in the storms and the whirlwind. What is in the dark? Okay, He knows what's in the dark. So He knows He allows or He doesn't allow things. But I also know, just like I told you, so you can go with whatever theory you may have, a totally different theory, and I would like to hear it. But I know that Donald Trump, he's not a public servant. Okay, the Kennedys, they were wealthy, they were influential, and they were powerful, but they were public servants. They had the best interest of the common man, which is the bulk of America. Most of America. Okay, so he identified with the upper class, and the Kennedys were a part of the upper class. They identified with them, but they knew that they were serving the middle. That's where the majority of people were. And so they were public servants. They were there to serve the public, not their own personal interests, not just the people at the top who they were connected to through friendships and family and business relationships. And so they were public servants, even though I don't even say aristocrats. They were from the higher level class. And some people talk about, their dad, Joe, and some of the things that he did wasn't so, that kind of thing. Excuse me, hydration break. But I say it all the time, especially when it talks about mentors. In my book, Better Than Average, I talk about mentors. Make sure that the people that you want to mentor you, not only do what you want, but they achieved it by a means that you're satisfied with, that you're comfortable with. Their morals align with yours. So that's why you should have different mentors for different things. Yes, you may find a mentor that is all around great and they mentor you in everything, but more than likely, you're going to have a financial mentor, a professional mentor, a marital mentor, because you may love the way somebody does business, but you hate the way they treat their wife or their husband, or how they, feel about family and the time that they put in or don't put in. You may love the way about their family, but they're not a go-getter as a business person. They're not a. You may love the way somebody thinks financially, but professionally, they're not there. So, like I said, businessman. Donald Trump comes from a family where he had in a mindset that he has to win. Okay, win, lose, or draw, good, bad, ugly. He makes things happen to guarantee that I win. Now, as I said, I was talking to my friend Elvita earlier. She had a girl for those wonderful, rich conversations that we have. She also reminded me of the law of the harvest, or the law of reaping and sowing. Okay, the law of reciprocity. It will come back to you in some kind of way, okay? And I made reference to the O.J. Simpson trial. All of his lawyers, his counsel who got him off when it was clear Ray Charles and Stevie Wonder could see it while they were asleep. They got him off, and all those people died. Most people prematurely and in horrible deaths with cancer and brain tumor. And so the law of the harvest is true, but in the meantime, don't just take things for face value, guys. It is what it is. It's one of the most horrible, most hated, in my opinion, cliches from my camp, because I want you to look at things a little differently. Is someone trying to play on our immediacy biases by manufacturing, he's manipulating it, and then saying, listen, I'm going to bail everybody out. I'm going to give everybody this. It's right on time for an election year. People are going to love me. Hey, 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 I'm your president. Hey, 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 I'm your guy, right? Is that what's happening? Or is it God and love will win? So this is the only way y'all love each other. I'm going to let stuff keep happening to the world, right? Now, this most of the time it's been, sectionalism. It's been different parts of the world, different parts of the country, but this is worldwide, right? Or at least nationwide. I think it's worldwide, but nevertheless, that's one thing I want you to, and that's not even the whole broadcast. That's just a powerful lesson. Excuse me. Wow. That don't take things for face value. Think about immediacy bias. Think about the fact that Americans and people vote for green, black and white, and think about the fact that crises. It's sad, but it's true that people use certain things to capitalize for their own being. That's the difference, like I said, between a public servant and a politician, a public servant and a businesswoman or businessman who's about their own self-interest and what they can get out of it, not how they can serve people. All right, so that's lesson 2. Face value is overrated. Look deeper into things and see what it's actually about. The next thing, lesson that you can learn from the corona, what's going on with corona, is the paradox of move away but grow closer. Okay, as teachers, you can really capitalize on this. Move away but grow closer. I'm seeing different things that are hilarious about teachers, and they're even funnier to me because I taught in a classroom for 13 years. Students, the best years of my life, but there's a paradox. Move away. They're calling it social distancing now, but it's quarantine. It's isolating yourself, not getting too close to people. Move away, but grow closer. You've heard that. The heart grow fonder. Now is an opportune time for you to build some teachers, for you to build some great relationships with your students, some great rapport, just checking on them, just letting them know that you care about them, just calling them, or sending them a message if you have, making sure that just like the school system here at Doherty County is putting food out for people to come and pick up. This is where you actually can capitalize your classroom management, because when kids know you care for them, I'm a living witness, a living testimony. When kids know you care for them, they will jump through hoops to please you. Even if they're not the brightest crayon in the box, they're going to, because they don't want to let you down. They don't want to embarrass themselves around you. Kids, so this is a wonderful time for teachers and educators to capitalize. And a lot of them got it. I'm not saying anything new to a lot of them. Like, for instance, the school system, calling people. Same thing with employees. Hey, Nikidra, same thing with employers and managers. Now is the time to build great relationship with your people. An organization that I do business with or work with or actually contract with, the leader of the organization sent out an email yesterday just saying, hey, listen, the title of the email was always keep sharpening your axe. This is a time for you to work on becoming better, so when it's time for us to reopen and receive, we can do it with excellence. He just saying, hey, everybody's good. Stay, you use this time wisely. So not just educators, guys, okay? Not just educators, but employers, managers, leaders, family members. It's a paradox now. Yourself, but grow closer. While your kids are away from you, teachers and principals and educators, while your employees are away from you, hey, listen, do you know that relationships are during those trying times? You draw closer to somebody when you've been through something with them. That was a time to capitalize, guys. This is such a wonderful management strategy, because like I said, people, hey, there's my girl, that's Keandre, atta girl, Keandre. I know she has kids, so I know how that can be. Sometimes I'm supposed to get on here at 9:30, sometimes it's 9:45. I was a little late today. It wasn't because of them, but so atta girl for doing what you got to do to make it happen. Listen, now is the time to capitalize. You've been through too much to be average. Average people won't do this kind of stuff. Leaders, employees, family leaders, or people in your family, educators, now is the time to capitalize on this paradox. Distance yourself or go away from people, but draw closer. Now is the time to let people know you care by sending them messages, calling to check on them. Once again, I have to give an atta girl to my friend Alvita. She just called to check on me today and say, listen, hey Annie, listen, I couldn't answer the call, but I said I'll call you back. I sent the text message. When I got back with her, I was like, listen, what's going on? She said, I just want to check on you, And people need to hear that, especially kids who don't have food, and the school system is going by and school buses dropping dropping off food at the bus stops. The food that our church and other churches are partnering with and making sure people, systems are in place. Yes, the government has put things in place that worker, you're going to get paid like a temporary unemployment because we understand you have no control of this. Yes, it could be that immediacy bias because it's an election year. Go back and look if you have not. Hey Tony, if you have not watched the rest of the podcast, I encourage you, or live broadcasting, go back and see. It could be a plan, okay? Because some people have that winner's mindset, and if he didn't manufacture it, he could say, listen, I'm going to capitalize on this because Donald Trump has a winning mindset. It's good, bad, and ugly sometimes. Sometimes it's the wrong way and it will come back to him. But while other people are finding a way to lose, he finds a way to win, even if it's at the expense of other people. I'm not saying that's what's going on here now, but you use the information that I've given you. You pray, study, and reflect and see if he's using this to play on your immediacy bias to say, hey, listen, you may have hated him all this time, but in the time of hardship, if he send you some money, will you vote for him? A lot of times people will. When that kid who just gave me the lollipop at school, I don't know. I don't remember any of the other campaign speeches, right? He just gave me a cupcake. He just gave me a slice of pizza, right? And so, nevertheless, while provisions are being made, and people are doing things for people, relationship is being built, right? So educators doing that. I was a teacher when we had the horrible hurricane and tornadoes here a few years ago. I was still a classroom teacher, and our principals are saying when we finally did come back to work and the kids weren't there because the roads weren't safe and that kind of things, there was still debris, we had to come in and start calls and say, listen, we're checking and making sure you're okay. Do you need anything? These are the resources we have. These are the places we can direct you. This is the time when you go through something with somebody in a relationship, when you go through something, trying situations, that's when you all become strong. Now, I was about to talk about the physical thing, but listen, let's just talk about the emotional and the social bonding and support that happens when you go through things with people. So now is the time, educators, to really capitalize and build relationship, and it's going to cause you to be at a totally other level when you get back into class. Because once kids know you care about them, once employees know that you care about them, once family members know that you truly care about them, they'll jump through hoops to be on your team and make sure that y'all win. I've seen kids that are not the sharpest crayon in the box, but they try and they're going to get help. They're going to cry out to you because they know that you care. So now is a time we can push ourselves away or social distance, as they say, so you can move away but draw closer. It's an oxymoron. Paradox, but make it happen. You can draw closer to people as they are lonely and feeling scared. Everything is working out, okay? Also, going back to gratitude. Now is the time, instead of complaining, when people are saying everybody else, and I know people are just joking a lot of times, and like I said, I'm encouraged the humor that people are putting out there to keep lifted up. And like I said, it's hilarious, a lot of it. But while people are complaining, they got us coming into work, man, we got to work. Guess what, guys? At least you have a job to come to, okay? Salary people, you have to come to a job. You might not even be able to do your job, but they want you there just in case. That's so important to the process of what's going on. Listen, some people have an hourly job and they're waiting for a bill so that they can get compensation because they're not getting any hours because they get out. Just because you have a job to go to, you should be grateful, guys, because as I said earlier in the broadcast, some countries experience the things that we've experienced. They would thousands of people, tens of thousands of people would have died by now. They don't have the resources in place. They don't have the systems in place. They don't have school systems out. They don't have government passing laws and bills to make sure, if it's strategic, still there's aid available for people so that in the world that in the country that we live in, things are in place for a time such as this. We have that security, as they say, and I'm not talking about the actual check. I'm talking about your life being secured, the life of people being secured by different systems that we have in place because we pay taxes, we vote and that kind of thing. So yes, you have to go to work, but thank God you have a good job to go to because it's closed down. Some people are so connected to this thing and it's such a threat that they can't go to it. And some small businesses will fail. Some small businesses will go under. Some large businesses will take huge trickle down. But guess what? We have systems in place. We have bailout plans. We have, food sort things like that. So just being grateful. Lesson 5, I've alluded to it a lot tonight and throughout the week. While Corona is going on, guess what? People's creative genius is erupting. People are coming up with ways to serve people, coming up with solutions, actually thinking for a change. When you have your plans upset, I had a big event coming up, wonderful event. It's postponed because it will happen, because I definitely want to honor the people in the book, as well as celebrate the book itself, my 5th book. But nevertheless, people's plans are being upset. People can't go times of comfort and convenience, but in the time of crisis, right? And so people's creative genius is erupting. All right, I'm seeing pastors and preachers on live that I've never seen on live. Okay, I don't know if it's because they don't want to do Facebook, but it's the only way that they can reach their people. Okay, I'm seeing people do things that they never. There was a guy on I think a city commissioner or something, that was saying that in a small town nearby where I'm from, the business is really feeling the hard impact because they can't bring customers in, that kind of stuff. He's saying, listen, if you want this business to survive, this is another creative. Not just coming to get carry out, but what about buying gift cards so that you're still spending the money? And people say, well, how am I going to buy gift cards if I can't get anything to eat yet? I need food now, but upset, guys. When plans are being upset, creative genius erupts. All right, creative genius erupts. People are coming up with ways to make things happen, and God may be saying, hey one, this is me saying to you that you can do things that you didn't think you could do. You can sit down and pray and reflect and study and find a solution to things, rather than just giving what people give you and saying that that's it. And so I'm seeing people do things that they never done before. You have parents at home teaching kids. There's so many jokes and memes on Facebook now about homeschooling and how, the parents are tired of it, and teachers are about to be the most respected profession wherever. When students return to school, they're going to be highly paid and that kind of thing. But people are finding a way to do things that they never imagined they could do because of this crisis, because of the corona. It's causing people's is to erupt, to burst forth and say, hey, listen, like I said, I don't know if pastors don't believe that, some pastors they say, I don't do Facebook Live. And it's funny that I was saying that because my pastor just came, Attaboy, that's my pastor Adams, but Pastor Eddie, he does Facebook Live, he does prayer and that kind of thing. But there's some pastors that were not go near it. But guess what? Now they're having to do it if they want to reach and serve their people. So one of the main points I'm saying is that people's creative genius, their resourcefulness is erupting in a time such as this. And maybe just God showing us what you can do if you put your mind to it. And it may be God saying, I did a broadcast on this a little while. It was a 1 hour session, but it was I did maybe an 8 or 9 minute video one day when God gave it to me, saying, don't make God have to put you in some kind of perform. Don't sit on your gifts until God says, hey, I'm gonna put you in this do or die situation. You're gonna have to sink or swim. You're gonna have to go out and use the gifts that I gave you to make things happen. It could be that situation, but I'm really saying one of the last points I'm driving home tonight is that that people's is erupting. People are doing things now. Parents are at home learning how to cope with their kids, and God is allowing and forcing sometimes people, or creating the environment for people to spend time with their kids that they wouldn't, and they're teaching their kids. And you have, like I said, pastors and ministers and people, groups on Facebook Live and YouTube Live and Instagram Live who never would have gone near it. I don't know if they just feel like I don't do Facebook, or I'm afraid to do that, I don't know how to do it. But in the last week, I've seen so I've never seen on Facebook Live, because they're reaching out to their a way to serve. And that's the beauty of this situation. And it could be God saying, hey, don't. The first question I asked you when I got on here tonight, and I put it on one of my last invitations to bring you here tonight, it said, this is mind empowering, life elevating stuff, I'm telling you. So just a quick review. I ask you this, that first lesson that I taught tonight is you live in a nation where systems are in place that something like this broken us and will not break us. Other countries where they don't have resources and systems in place, tens of thousands of people would have been dead now based on what we're facing. Okay, so be grateful that you have a job to go to, even if your job is still called. Be grateful that there are school buses out passing out food to kids who may not be fed because they're out of school. There are churches like my church partnering with people, food banks and that kind of stuff. So be grateful. That's a lesson before the lesson, really. The easiest way to change your state is to find something. When you're in a bad state, feeling discouraged, stop and be genuinely grateful. You could even compare yourself and say, listen, there are people sick and dying. There are people who don't have right? So that was the lesson within a lesson. Also, I asked you, could this be love's way of saying, hey, I will win by any means necessary. So if this is what it takes to get y'all together, and that kind of stuff, whatever, okay? But the first real lesson was, notice I didn't put coronavirus on any of my immediacy bias. People will do things for you right before an election. People will do things for you right before it's time for a decision, right before they ask you for something, right before you get ready to plan your budget. You have not seen politicians all year long. Now when they want to come to your church, now we want to come and throw a barbecue in your community. So there's a such thing as immediacy bias. Whatever happens immediately before a decision is made outweighs let me not use the word Trump, but overrides everything else that a person has done or has not. Educated. Also, as plans are being upset, people are becoming very genius about doing things. And I will end with this. This is the statement that I made, and I did a podcast on it. Subscribe to the Rare Podcast on Anchor, Spotify, Apple, all of those. Okay, Overcast. Be committed to your